So, guys, over the last few videos, I have been chronicling my reintroduction to the brand of Harley Davidson. To put things in perspective, guys, again, I had not gone into a Harley Davidson dealership for the better part of 20 years. And I want to share a little bit of a story with you just to set the table. The reason why I never did go back to Harley is when I was a kid, my stepdad had a Sportster 1200 that I loved to ride. And one day I was riding it, needed to get gas, pulled up at the pump, and there was some other Harley Davidson, whatever, Glide. I'm not sure what it was, but it was one of the larger touring bikes. And as a kid, I couldn't have been over 19 or 20 years old. I'm pumping gas into this thing. And the guy goes, "A Sportster, huh?" And I mean, kind of caught me off guard. When are you going to get a real Harley? Real Harley? And I looked at the guy and said, "What does that even mean?" It's a Sportster. And you have to understand, guys, Sportster to me meant hot rod. It was the quick, agile, fun Harley Davidson. You had other touring motorcycles, and the way that my brain works, every manufacturer had a touring bike. I didn't know that those were the real version of whatever brand we're talking about. Anyway, it set a weird precedent for me. The tone, the taste of the moment was just very sour. And so it was left for years and years and years. So Harley Davidson, you can thank that gentleman for me never buying a Harley leading up to the time where I was walking into the dealership just very recently. So I get into the dealership and, well, here's where things get weird. Initially, I was looking at Harley maybe from the wrong point of view, or at least from an uneducated point of view. I was looking at Harley Davidson as the type of motorcycle that was legacy by design. In other words, not really innovating because you don't have to improve upon something that's already perfect. You don't need to make the Sportster better. It's already what it is supposed to be. It has evolved into that, and no more does it need to move. The same with many of their other motorcycles. They offer a very uniquely American motorcycling experience. And changing that recipe means changing the flavor of the entire dish. And in this case, maybe or maybe not for the better. But because I was looking at it from that perspective, and I was putting videos out, some of you guys had made a point. Welcome to 2024. Why don't you look at the other offerings from Harley Davidson? And two things crossed my mind with those comments. Well, maybe three. One, thank you very much for reminding me that Harley Davidson does make other motorcycles. Two, why didn't they maybe usher me into those other motorcycles areas when I was at the dealership? I guess because I made my intentions pretty clear that I was looking for something more old school. But three, I needed to educate myself on those bikes. I mean, that seems like the way that Harley Davidson is going. And so after that experience and learning that, well, the bike that maybe I wanted was no longer being produced, I started looking more into the brand. And I learned that about 4 years ago, Harley Davidson had teased with a platform. It was called the Street Fighter platform. And it's very much along the same lines of a sport naked motorcycle, if you will. Very much like a Speed Twin or a Honda CB1000 Black Edition. Very muscly, very sport bike-esque, just naked, no fairings, but still had some Harley DNA, and handling and performance was something that, well, I mean, they really weren't catering to with any other motorcycles. So why didn't Harley make that bike? And the cool thing about it is that it could have captured entry-level riders with a 500cc variant, which was slated anyway, along with the 970cc bike, which would have been called the Bronx. And then the Street Fighter itself would have been the 1250cc variant. You capture entry level, you capture mid, and then you capture the clinically insane, because that version of the V-twin, that RevMax engine, would have been well over that 120 horsepower that the Sportster S is making, and about 90 odd pound-feet of torque. In other words, it would have been a real beast of a bike to ride. So after I found that, I decided I'm going to go back to the Harley Davidson dealership and give these Rev Max bikes some time. I want to see them. I want to sit on them. I want to get a little bit more intimately involved with that side of Harley Davidson, moving away from the more traditional bikes. And when I walked into the dealership today, I asked about the bike, and it was immediately clear that the person that I was talking to had been annoyed for a number of years over numerous folks asking about the Bronx, if you will. And immediately, nope, don't even ask again. It's not happening. They're never going to make it. Bummer. And then I made it perfectly clear, look, guys, I'm not here to look at the traditional Harley Davidsons. I was here once looking for those. I've since changed a little bit, and I want to look more at these Rev Max offerings. After being completely shut down on the Street Fighter / Bronx proposition. And this is where things got a little bit weird for me, because the more I wanted to learn about the Rev Max products, it seemed like the less that folks wanted to talk to me in that dealership. The more that I wanted to learn about the more modern variants, the less they seemed to want to carry a conversation. And that bothered me a little bit, and it triggered that memory of me being a kid. Why would you want to buy or even consider looking at that Sportster S? That's not a real Harley. This Softail Alphabet Soup bike, that's the real Harley. That's what you want to be interested in. That's the feeling that I got. And so when I left the dealership today, I got to tell you, I felt a little bit hollow for the whole experience. Not just because I got my heart broken because the Street Fighter is not going to be made, at least not forecasted anytime soon, but because that inner kid that was so rudely dispatched, it's almost like I relived that, but maybe from a different perspective. And now that I've gone through, in essence, the same type of treatment by yet another Harley enthusiast, in this case, somebody that represented the brand, I'm a little bit less inclined now to go back to the dealership, regardless of what cool bikes may come. Now, of those Rev Max engine powered bikes, you've got some pretty cool offerings. You've got the Pan America, you've got the Boxster, you've got the Sportster S, and you've got the Nightster. And the Nightster is actually a pretty cool looking bike. It's like a stylistic evolution of the 883 or the 1200 Sportster. Would be a whole lot cooler if it had that 1250 Rev Max in it. That little bike would be a monster. But that's kind of beside the point, because with the way that I was sort of, even if it wasn't intentional, but the way that I was made to feel when I was at the dealership and as I got into my truck and drove off, the only thing that crossed my mind was, it's a real shame that that's the last time I'll probably ever darken the doorstep of a Harley Davidson dealership. So guys, post up your comments with your experience with your Harley Davidson. Are you more of an old school or a new school guy? Would you have been a player if that Street Fighter was going to be available? Let me know, but I'll just have to live vicariously through you for now. And with that, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for stopping by.